Okay, StreamYard says, does it say we're live? It says
Yes.
we're live. Hello, everybody. How are we all doing this fine? What day is it? Friday?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't even know how you're doing this fine Friday. Thank you so much for joining us for what is hopefully a once a month chat collective, lovingly dubbed the Fireside Chats. Thank you so much, Sherry, for that. Where we sit and we talk about all of the important issues that we feel need discussing within AuthorTube or BookTube, CreatorTube in general. So do we want to go around and introduce ourselves, starting top with Sherry, down to Hayley, and then to Nia? Did I point in the right directions for that? I think I did.
Hi, my name is Sherry, and I've been hosting some writing streams over on Twitch, twitchtv.sharingforge. And I am a writer, I am a gamer, and I am a chef. I have been streaming for a little bit now. Like I started at the beginning of June, and I host streams, writing streams over there every day except for Tuesday and except for today because I'm over here at the Fireside Chats.
I'm so sorry to interrupt your schedules over on Twitch, by the way, guys.
All right, it starts at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Hayley.
Hi, I'm Hayley. I am also part of AuthorTube. I write YA fantasy or historical fiction, and I'm looking into getting into science fiction. I mainly write queer characters, or at least I'm trying to do more of that. And right now I'm looking to query my main fantasy manuscript, Secrets of the Neath, and I'm also a playwright, so if you like plays, I have written plays, and I might be doing more videos about plays in the future. Oh, and I've also been writing streams and games on Twitch if you want to check me out. Twitch.tv/HayleyHCreates. Boom.
Yay.
All right. And I'm Nia, also known as the Vixen of Fiction. You can find me here on YouTube at The Vixens of Fiction. I'm also on Instagram at The Vixen of Fiction. And I have a Twitch, and I'm going to start using it next month. I promise, as soon as things slow down. I'm a fitness instructor, so January's our crazy month. So as soon as things slow down, I will be joining you guys on Twitch, and you can find me there at Vixen of Fiction also. I write comics. I'm trying to write a novel, a fantasy novel. I would like to also write a historical fantasy novel. I have several things that in the works. I'm one of those writers that unfortunately can't just work on one project. So I've got a bunch of them, but my main focus right now are my historical fiction fantasy, my regular fantasy, and my sci-fi comic, which I hopefully will be putting out very, very soon. I'm very excited about where it's at.
Yay! My name is Sarah Cahill. Sorry, it's just occurred to me that I haven't actually added any of your details into my box. So I'm literally going about doing it now. Hello, my name is Sarah Cahill. I am a middle grade and YA fantasy writer. Doing a bunch of stuff that I don't even know what it is anymore. I am currently in the process of querying my very first query, Project Body Swap, which is a YA fantasy, which I'm very, very excited about. And I just applied for author mentor match, which I'm also very excited to have done. So yeah. Okay, everyone is now down below for the links for everybody's YouTube and Twitch.
Oh,
so go check them out. Go check them out.
I have forgotten that if you do miss my streams, all of them are uploaded on YouTube, so you can catch them there.
Yes. I have also subscribed, Sherry, by the way. You mentioned, I was like, oh my god, Sherry mentioned she had her YouTube up and running now. So I was just like, yep, let me sort that out. Right, let's quickly see who's here and then we'll get into what we came here to do. Steffi is here. Hello, Steffi.
Hello, Steffi.
Hey, Devin.
Hi, Devin.
Ellie Author, hello, how are you doing today? Celine, hello, how are you? And JLC, technically working, but hopefully can stay in for a bit and spend some time with you lovelies.
Awesome.
Yay!
We're a good distraction. That's what we'll be here for. Believe me.
Oh, yeah. I love to listen to streams. I love to listen to people's streams while I'm working. So we're glad you're here.
I love doing it while I'm cooking too. It's like cooking with friends or for friends, and then I end up cooking way too much, and I'm like, oh, they're not actually here.
Lots of leftovers. It's like listening to your own little podcast, though, isn't it? Really. So today, I think, what was it? Last month for our December wrap-up stream, we sort of went into a little bit of a discussion about diversity. I don't know how it happened, but somehow we all went on this tangent about diversity in writing.
I blame KFC.
No, actually, yeah, no, that would make sense. We should also do something about that as well. But yeah, we started talking about diversity in writing, and then, I don't know, we sort of realized that while we couldn't discuss everything that we wanted to in that particular stream, it was something that warranted its own live stream and its own dedicated conversation, just because of the importance of it in not only writing but in media and just in general. So we today are going to be discussing anything and everything we can, basically, about diversity in writing. I want to try and stick to POC diversity for this stream, because I feel like LGBTQ plus will need its own dedicated stream.
Yeah.
I don't want to sort of take away from either side's importance of the conversation, so I feel it's best to keep them separate.
Of course.
So we can dedicate enough time to both of them. But yeah, let's be. I don't even know how we're going to go about this, really. I've got some questions written down here. If anybody watching has any questions, any statements that they want to discuss,
yes,
please let us know. We will be happy to hear from you. We don't want it to be just a discussion between us four, because we are four very different people.
Yeah.
We have our own very different opinions on these things, and they can be different from yours. They could be another side of the story to what you know and what you have experienced. So the more open we can make this discussion between ourselves and with everybody watching, the better. I'll start with, I'm gonna head right into it. Does representation matter in media? And why?
I will say, if you are a person of color, yes, it matters. You don't know how many times I've been online and people say, oh, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. I'm like, if you're a white male, no, it doesn't matter to you, because you see yourself everywhere.
Yeah.
Every show, you're on every single show. You're everywhere. So you won't think it matters, because everywhere you look, you see you. But trust me, if you're a little Black girl or a little Asian girl and you're not directly looking at the Black channel or the Asian networks, if you're just looking in mainstream, I live in mainstream. I want to see people that look like me in mainstream. So yes, it matters. It matters when, little girls, see the Black superhero and they're like, whoa, they're blown away. You can see it on their face. When the children were seeing Black Panther, you can see it in their face, in their reaction. You can't say that doesn't matter. It might not matter to you, but look at their reaction. Look at their reaction to an Iris West.
Yes.
It does matter.
Yeah,
That's
it's
just my
finally
two
there is
cents.
finally. I think with Miles Morales as well with Into the Spider.
Yes.
Finally, there is a super. They look like me. They look
Yes.
like me, and it's like.
And also, he's biracial. His
Yes.
mom is Latina.
Yes,
So
he's Afro-Latina.
yeah.
Yes.
So you can see that there's a person out there with exactly the same kind of background as me, and not only that, but they're freaking Spider-Man.
Yes.
Completely different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went Marvel DC there. Yeah.
One day crossover.
Yes.
That would make me so happy.
That'd be epic.
Yeah.
Very, very epic indeed. I don't know. Like I don't want to speak for like white people. So it sounds really weird, but like I don't think they understand. They fully understand. Or the people who argue or disagree, I don't think they like fully understand the importance of seeing someone who looks like you up on the screen in not just a stereotypical black gang member, say,
Yeah, not the criminal,
or anything like that. But yeah, I don't know. I can't explain it because I suck with words, which is very ironic.
When I first came here, I was like, basically I was already in high school. I didn't really get to spend much time in middle school, so I was just like, this strange teenager that appeared out of the blue. Like, I've never lived in this country before. I was an immigrant, and then I discovered Gilmore Girls. And on Gilmore Girls was a character, Lane Kim, who was Asian. And she wasn't just that stereotypical Asian person that you see all the time, who's really good at math and really, the stereotypes.
Yeah.
I don't even have to explain it. Like, you get it. But she was into music. She had to hide all of this stuff from her parents, who wouldn't understand her like weird American mind. She was an immigrant with parents who are like, you have to do this thing that I tell you that you have to do. Like, you have to like follow like my culture in this way. And I was like, oh my God, it's me. Like, this is a person who is having to navigate like high school as a person.
Yep.
Doing that, and you get to actually see her grow. Like, you get to see her over the years becoming more and more of her own character, like getting like stronger, apart from being like just Rory Gilmore's friend. Do you know what I mean? She slowly gains her own agency. She buys herself a drum kit. She like creates a band. Like, this it's not just seeing someone on screen that looks like you. It's watching someone with your same story take that story and like succeed from it. And you know what? She didn't even like have that, like, she became a rock star and is successful, that kind of story. She had a very human story where she fell in love with someone, they had beautiful kids, and then she's a mom, but she's also a rock star. That's kind of something that you just want to see. You want to see these real, true stories happening on television, because reality is stranger and more beautiful than fiction can ever really be. And it's our imperative as writers to be able to take those experiences that we've had, that other people have had, and give them an avenue, give them a venue to be seen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think much too often, I think any POC character is always sort of relegated to the sidekick, or the white protagonist's best friend. So they are there when the protagonist is there, and they help lift the protagonist up but it's not very often that those characters get their own story within the actual media itself, which it's I don't know why. I don't know why people believe that that is acceptable representation for POCs, or who aren't, or isn't a stereotypical representation. What do we think about the tropes that POC have in books and media?
Generally bad.
There are very few, I think, that are good. And even the ones that are good, it's just like, it gets, I don't know if it gets old, or like the Black best friend. It's a trope, and you think, well, what's wrong with that? It's like, but that's all that they are. They almost never get a storyline. You don't know what happens to them off, unless it's a one-off. They'll get a one-off, but even their one-off storyline usually revolves around the main character.
Yep.
So no, it's not bad to be the best friend, but that's this show, then the next show, then the next show, then the next show, then the next show. It's that's when it becomes a trope, and it gets almost exhausting, because it's hard to explain to people, because they think they're doing this great thing. They're like, we wrote this person. It's a good person, and he's the best friend, or she's the best friend. And it's like, just like every other story, and they're going to have like 5 lines, and those 5 lines are going to be uplifting the white male lead, probably, and that's probably about it.
It's almost as though it's relegating the person of color to, you can't be the main character. You have to be the support to the main character. Like, this is your lot in life. You're going to be the supportive best friend, because if we built a story around you, it's not going to sell. Because no one wants to see those. No one wants to see those stories. And you think, as a person who is being like targeted by marketing companies and by people who publish these stories and who showcase these stories, there must not be people like me who watch these shows. I must be the only one. It's like separating you from the get-go.
Yep.
These stories are only for white people. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's
like a massive fuss. What was it? Before Black Panther came out, or no one's going to go and watch a black superhero, wasn't it? Yep. And it's this sort of like assumption, but it's an assumption completely based on their target audience, which is white middle-aged men.
Yeah.
And then, not to divert, but it's sort of the same argument people had with a female superhero movie as well, which is another issue entirely.
Yeah.
They're basing all of their decisions and all of their thoughts and all of the characters on what they believe is their target audience, which doing a target audience of age should be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
You can't target audience race, and you can't target audience culture.
Yeah.
Because you don't know.
Yeah, if you tell a good story is a good story. So go ahead and put a minority or a person of color in that lead role. If it's a good story, it should work. There are things that you'll
sorry. You're absolutely correct, but I would just like to say, The Wizard of Earthsea, the main protagonist of that story is dark-skinned. Did they portray that in the movies? Did they portray that in Studio Ghibli? Does anybody know that this person, like, if you read the books, he has dark skin, he has caramel-colored skin, and he has curly hair? Why is there a white guy why is he a white guy all of a sudden now? Like, no, what you cannot do that. Like,
Yeah.
Ursula K. Le Guin did that for a reason, because she said we need to see this.
Yes.
You can be a wizard too.
And here's the thing: when you do that, it should be to add more diversity, not take diversity away.
Yes.
We see whitewashing so often. Avatar the Last Airbender movie, which I hate talking about, but is a perfect example. The Hunger Games, I believe Katniss was originally dark-skinned in the novels. Obviously, Jennifer Lawrence played her. I've been hearing this a lot recently, so I will bring it up. The new Netflix Winx series, movie, whatever, they've whitewashed the majority of that cast as well. Yeah. They've taken away the Asian and Latina characters and left us with the one black character. And yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely Winx. Yeah, so I've been hearing so much about it.
It's like, why? Just why?
They're trying to cater again to who they believe is their target audience, which are teenage white girl. I don't know what the thought is, but
I think who's the audience reading the book? Who's the audience reading the book? If they're reading the book, why would you think that they wouldn't then turn around and watch?
With all the outrage that always comes from the issue of whitewashing, you'd think people would get it in their heads to stop doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know why. I think they think that any talking about their stuff is good, or will drum up interest or acknowledgement for whatever they're doing, even if it is, bad.
That fallacy of all advertising is good advertising.
Yeah.
That was loud. Oh my heart.
There.
Can't be that chaotic if we're not louder than others.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, what about in books as well? Because I know we're talking a lot about movies, but I think in regards to representation, it's a lot easier to talk in a visual media sense than it is in a book sense. But yeah, what about books as well? And, any sort of good or bad reputation for POC in books, whether, that were published a long time ago, whether have been published recently. Have you seen sort of any...
How many person of color characters are there in the Shadowhunters Chronicles?
See, I think I've only read the first of the books, so I don't know.
As stated in
I don't know.
Books,
yeah, I don't know if the show actually does better than...
All I can remember, and this is not from the book, this is from the TV show, the movie. Am I thinking of the correct thing here?
Shadowhunters is a series.
It's a series.
Yeah, the only thing, because I read the books as well, but this was a very long time ago, and I stopped halfway through because I didn't like them that much. I know in the series one of the characters is black. Whether or not they were stated in the novel as being black, I don't know. I think that's one of the issues, which was one of the questions I wanted to ask in regards to books. I noticed that diversity or race or the color of someone's skin usually isn't directly stated, or it never used to be in the past. And I've heard from a lot of, obviously this is like from a long time ago, but I think I've heard people's reasonings to be they want it to be a blank slate for the reader to imagine the character however they want to imagine the character, as opposed to forcing an idea of what the character looks like onto them. So
I will say that for books that happened basically when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, when I was coming up and reading, if the color and race wasn't stated, I did exactly that. I made it up in my head. So then it would be very awkward when years later, they'd make a movie or something out of it, and it's like, oh, they're all white. Okay.
Tacking on to that, if you think about the breadth of where books eventually end up, there are a lot of different places in the world. Like, we are actually international. You know what I mean? Like, and if you get this book and it lands in some place where, for example, like, this, no one ever leaves this country. Everyone here is basically of the same ethnicity. And, this, having representation, having actual nuanced representation would be kind of the only way for these, for people in other countries to get to know other people, to get to know other cultures. And I see this like all the time, sometimes just like hanging out in chat in other people's streams, but like, it's kind of making me feel a little bit sad how they're like, well, I can't write a story based in Germany. I have to write a story in America, or I can't write a story based in Norway because that's not going to sell and it's not going to make it big. I have to make sure that it's based in America so that more people will buy it, because people buy American books. Do you know what
Yeah.
I think one of the issues that I've always had is growing up, if there was no ethnicity or race stated, like, because I was surrounded by white people in media, my brain would just automatically fill the role of every character whose race wasn't stated as a white person. And obviously in different countries that might be different, especially if their media is not filled with white people. I know India, Bollywood, China, Asia in general, obviously they're going to have more of a continental representation on their screens. But in so many mixed international countries like England, a lot of Europe, in America, it is, I don't want to say it's mostly white, because I honestly don't think it is, but people think it is. So I think not stating race and not stating culture or ethnicity is not the way to go, because you can't be 100% sure that what the author meant when they wrote this particular character actually is representative of you, because it is not stated in canon. That's why you get so many people doing fan art and doing their own headcanon about Harry Potter or Percy Jackson being because of what the author has written from their perspective in the books, or how the author describes their way of thinking. It's very sort of coded towards, I guess, what a lot of POCs would say is representative of them and their own feelings and thoughts. So you get these massive fights and wars and issues going on between all the fans about things like what race they are or who they're representing. And it's such an easy thing to
just
thing to avoid by just saying they were black, or they were Korean or Chinese or something like that. So
and not being afraid, not being afraid to add these characters, and you don't have to tell their entire history. If some things need to be mentioned, ask a friend. If you don't have a friend, sorry, but find someone in the writing community, ask them, get your sensitivity readers. Your story doesn't have to be about whatever their history is, but don't be afraid to include people, and then if if it's just a group of friends and the friends want to go over to the Asian girl's house, and maybe the mom is actually from Asia, and maybe she's, you know, fixing some lumpia or something, you know, you can say, hey, what cultures would who would make this, and what would she do, you know, when they come, when people immigrate to America, do they still hold on to these traditions? You know, and not every family is going to be the same. I know I grew up in a military community, which is why when I would read in very diverse, you know, if someone had long dark hair, I didn't assume that they were a white person with long dark hair. They could have been like my friend across the street who was Filipino, or my friend down the road who was Latina who had long dark hair. So I didn't automatically have that assumption that everybody was white. They were just a white person with curly hair or a white person with dark hair. So, you know, and I noticed that they were all different. Some people were very, what you would call Americanized. You know, you wouldn't even know what their culture was when you walk into their house. And some people, it was like, take off your shoes, you know, the whole 9 yards. And it was very cool. It was never anything odd to me. It's like, this is just how we do it when we go to, you know, Anna's house or whatever, you know. So you can ask a couple of different people, and they might have some different experience, and then decide how you want to write it, you know, and just make that the story. And that's okay. And if someone questions it, you can explain. I modeled this after my friend so-and-so, and she explained to me that this is how things were in her household. And that, I think that that's okay. As long as you're not don't do anything disrespectful, or just don't do anything wild and crazy that you don't know about. You know, if you don't know, don't do it. But you can have that. You can have them have friends. You can write these characters in. Be careful and ask. It's okay to ask.
Yeah, basically, like, if you're going to be basing any of your assumptions about what a culture is based only on pop culture and the media as it is today, you're doing it wrong. You should go and do a little bit of research, a little bit of footwork, even if that's digital footwork, by going and asking someone who is that, who is who's trying, who you're trying to base your character on. And that's like fine. And going back to what like Sarah said, it actually actively makes fandoms toxic when you don't mention anything concrete, when you don't ground people in reality. If you just let everything be like amorphous and, oh, this is for whoever it is that's going to want to pick this up, and you know, that wishy-washy, this is for everyone because you're trying to get your product to the most hands, that creates these toxic
fan
environments.
Yes,
where people just are, one group is defending their choices and another group is just being like, no, that's never how it's done, that's not how it's done, therefore you can't say that, because everything is just so vague, everything hasn't been like nailed down. They can go off on these like wild, you're just trying to censor us kind of rants about things, whereas what is actually happening is the opposite. This is already a form of censorship. It's just marketing censorship.
Yeah, I think more often than not as well, any character who is written without a race or a culture in mind is, especially if the author is white, is going to be coded as a sort of white culture. They're not going to have any sort of intricacies about them culturally. It's like turning a white character into a POC without doing the cultural background changes as well. Hayley, I'm going to come and ask you, because you've been very quiet.
Yes.
You've been very quiet, and come speak, because your view and your opinion is just as important as ours in regards to this. In regards to writing diverse characters within your own work, did you have any fears or difficulties in doing so at first, or how did you sort of get comfortable with comfortably being able to write diverse characters? And I'm going to open this up to both of you as well, because we are not every culture.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just really want to echo what everybody else has been saying, you know. Like I definitely want to say that, like, I've been silent for a reason. Been silent because I
know.
think it's my place to talk and, like, you know, not like pass judgment, but like everything that you guys have been saying has already been said by a white person. So, like, I don't need to add my voice to that. But I think I do want to echo that, like, just research is so important to my writing, especially as a white author writing people of color, writing Black characters, writing all different cultures, like research first and foremost. And then pretty much like you've all been saying, like asking friends, like, hey, what's this? Is this like good? And of course, sensitivity readers. Like, so in my NaNoWriMo project, I have one character who's a reporter, and she's Muslim American. And in my yes. Once I do my like second round of edits and everything, I definitely want to get in on like some sensitivity reader action for her and just for the whole story in general, because I feel like the best sensitivity readers don't just comment on the characters, on the like quote unquote different characters that you're trying to write, but like how they also influence your story, you know? And like, as a white author, I definitely acknowledge that, like, you know, I'm sure there's like shored up stereotypes, at least like places, no matter like how much I acknowledge them, and no matter how like I say, no, there's not, I'm not saying that, but there's like definitely stereotypes and everything in my work just because of like the culture that we live in, our white supremacist society and everything. So I also think that a sensitivity reader and just having other people who are not part of your own culture and don't share your own worldview, going through your story would be super, super helpful, also just to unpack that as well. Yeah. Also, yes, representation for superheroes. When you said Iris West, I jumped, but
yeah. And I mean, that's all I want, honestly. But I also understand that I traffic in my favorite genres are science fiction and fantasy, which I feel like really anything can go. Like, if you can imagine wizards and dragons, you can imagine that there are Black or Asian looking people in your story. You know, it's not, it shouldn't be a leap.
I'll close it.
Like, how can you imagine fairies and dragons and, you know, all kinds of made up stuff that you can't see, but you can't imagine people that you can actually see in your story? That makes sense.
Yeah. I think one of the difficulties I think there's a certain fear about writing about a race or culture that is not your own. And some people honestly, legitimately do not want to get something wrong, so they don't even try. Again, doing some research. I mean, obviously, Hayley, you've got a Muslim character in your book. I've got a Muslim character in Abingdon House. But sometimes it's as simple as I've got a Muslim character. They don't eat pork, so mention that. They have prayer, so just Google prayer times, and then have a character mention it, or Google a popular traditional dish from a certain country or culture.
Also,
and even as a start, input that somewhere just to give a nod to their culture, and then get someone from that culture.
It's also fairly important to figure out where exactly they are from as a Muslim, because there are different sects of Islam. And so you would have to do a little bit of research, and it's not even that hard. It's basically geography. So just figure out where he or she is from, and then go from there. And it's basically world building in reverse. That's as far as myself writing diverse characters. I have been very, very lucky that my parents are a nurse and an engineer, because they have, because of their jobs, been sent to a bunch of different places to live, and I got to experience a lot of cultures firsthand. And I also got this shyness thing of not wanting to reach out first, of being able to, if you're new, if you're new and you're shy, that is terrible, and it's going to be devastatingly lonely. But if you're new and you're open, and if you talk to people, because they're not going to reach out to you, you have to be the one to reach out first, and you have to do so with open palms. You have to show them that you're someone that is going to be listening to them back. So if you do that, if you go to these different cultures, if you make friends, just make friends. It's the most kindergarten of all lessons. Learn how to make friends with people. Just start from there. And then you can go and do the rest of it quite easily. But you have to start off with a very, very, very kindergarten lesson of how to friend.
People are always more than the color of their skin, and they are more than their culture, and nothing about anybody should scare you away from communicating and talking, because it's very, very rare that anybody is a stereotype that they are presented by in the media.
Oh yeah. And I gotta tell you, living in the United States, it is so different everywhere that you go. Again, being in a military family growing up, I could see how differently even Black people live. Like when you have a family that some of my family are from a more inner city up north, and when I go there, it's like night and day from how things would be when I would be living in the South, or living, wherever our military base was at, so there's such a variety within the United States of America itself, that you're stereotypes that I see, I'm just I don't even know sometimes anyone who's living that. And I'm but I see it over and over and over. So I understand how they say that there are people in other countries, if they just actually think that this is how all Black people in America are, or this is how all Latino people in America are, because that's all that they see, and we are all we live in LA or New York. No.
Yeah.
Or
Chicago.
Yeah. And it's
it's the three places.
Yeah. And those are the places that they know, and they think that, I don't know. It's weird. So
it's almost
branch out.
Stereotype.
What's that?
I think every country also has its own cultural stereotype. Like in America, you've got the New Yorkers, you've got the people from the South who, hey y'all, and all of that stuff.
We
and,
do say hey y'all.
like exaggerated over the top. And then you've got the ones that live in LA who are all hoity-toity rich people who are like, oh my god, that's like so fantastic, I love it, sort of thing. And then obviously
Stop calling out Crystal.
Yeah.
then you've got the stereotypes from Ireland, they all like to drink lots, or the stereotypes from England who love crumpets and tea, and you know, all of these sort of different.
Really into queuing.
Yeah, we love our queues. We love our queues. I once waited in a queue for Build-A-Bear for 6.5 hours with the little one. So that's a true stereotype right there.
That's a true thing.
I was going to get a £22 Build-A-Bear for £2. Okay, like I was waiting. That.
Okay, I'd queue for that too.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the things about media is that it continuously perpetuates these stereotypes, because that's all people grow up with knowing while they watch media. I feel like that's how they have to continue representing those people from those different parts of the world or those different cultures in that same way, because that is I suppose the standard for all those different cultures going on, which is
Yeah.
And for this bit of years.
Yes.
So yeah.
I think if we want to see sometimes, and it's unfortunate, but if you want to see characters like yourself, you sometimes have to write them yourself. It'd be nice if other people were writing, but that's just not always going to be the case. So, you know, sometimes we do just have to tell our own stories. And that's okay. But if you're not a person of color or some other marginalized, I just don't want white cis people to feel like they can't, so they're just not going to do it. They're not going to try. They're too scared of messing up. And the backlash. I mean, the backlash can be scary, but if you put in the effort, it'll be so worth it, because there are people like me where I'm almost bored. And I hate to say it because I do like to try to read anything, but I do get almost bored when everything is just cis white. I don't, and I'm sorry if that's what you're writing, but it's almost not even what I'm looking for anymore. If I come across it and it's really good, then yeah, I'll still read it or watch it. But like when I'm looking at a commercial for a show, and I'm saying this because it's more visual, if it looks super vanilla, I'm probably gonna keep.
If you think about all of the media in the past that was just cis white people, that is already piles and piles and piles and piles and piles of media. That is like so much work already that is already there. I mean, everyone says all the time that, well, are you the one that wrote it? That's absolutely correct. You should be putting your own voice and your own characteristics onto a piece of work. But if you're going to be writing the same characters over and over and over again, like it is a perpetual machine of white people, white straight people, then it's going to get old rather fast. And also, can we go to this comment by Kelly Wright? Don't forget Appalachian America, where apparently we don't have shoes and apparently we all make moonshine. This because recently there came out a movie about exactly this called Hillbilly Elegy, and it was so weirdly just hateful.
I heard about it. Just cringe. No.
It was just this is about your own people, like literally his own family. And he went to Harvard and just pooped on all of them. Like there is definitely like diversity, and then there's like all of a sudden like self-hate where you just like take all of these horrible stereotypes and you perpetuate it for, I don't know, because it'll get you a Netflix special.
Yeah.
It's like how must they feel? I mean, I can imagine, because we've been living it, you know, we just get all of the worst of the stereotypes, but man, come on. Right?
I was on Shay's live writing, and they were talking about the Proud Family, and we realized that Dijonnaise is one, a condiment, and also all of her siblings are named after spices. Like one of them's called Tabasco, the other one's called paprika, cinnamon, basil, and and it's like, that's disrespectful.
It's so weird.
And it's like, you always hear about it as kind of like jokingly said, but it's okay if I do it. And it's about, for example, I'm Filipina. It's okay for me to make fun of other Filipinos. And then that's fine. It is okay for me to make fun of other Filipinos in like a closed, sustained area where it's just me and my friend who are also Filipinos. But you don't take that, which is basically us pouring a salve over our open wounds so that it doesn't rot. It's just basically using humor to make the things that we talk about, that we experience on a day-to-day level, feel better. And then taking that and putting it in the media unfiltered
for other people to laugh at.
For other people to laugh at.
Yeah, and then that's how the stereotypes get worse, because it has come from someone of that culture.
Yeah,
this is not a white person writing about this culture in a stereotypical way. This is someone from that culture perpetuating those stereotypes and then having everyone else go, oh, it must be true then.
Yeah, like also with the Proud Family, and I have fond memories of it, so I don't want to crap on it. But you know, the dark-skinned family, they were the ruffian kid. So there's things that I look back on now, I'm like, oh, that was kind of problematic. But
the girl is called La Cienega Boulevardes.
Yeah, looking back on anything is cringe. Everything that I used to love, I'm like, I don't want to watch it again because I'm gonna hate it. Like with the knowledge of life that I have now, like if I rewatch this, I'm not going to like it anymore. It's how people keep coming up with, oh, this show was so problematic and this show had no diversity and look at the jokes or the character. Well, you'd never be able to do those types of jokes in this day and age. So part of it is it's growth. It's growth. So we can, and I think it's fine. People, I don't think people can I can't talk. A lot of people, I think, don't understand that you can love something and critique it at the same time.
Yeah.
So while you can say, you know, you love the Proud Family, it's one of your fondest memories, you can also acknowledge that it is a little bit cringe and it is a little bit
also, can we talk about the feelings? Can we talk about the fact that it is a piece of media and therefore doesn't have feelings, so anything you say about it, it can't get hurt.
Exactly. The creators, the people who created that are not going to care about what some
really don't.
They're just rolling in their money at the moment.
Yeah, they've already made their money. They're like, say whatever you want. Maybe more people will come back and watch it again to see what you're talking about.
I did.
I want to rewatch Mrs. Doubtfire so much because I love that movie, but then I do not want to rewatch Mrs. Doubtfire because I'm like,
I love that movie.
Yeah.
So do I.
I actually have a relevant comment about Mrs. Doubtfire. They're making a musical out of it, starring Rob McClure as Robin Williams, the character. I don't even know. And like in the research for the musical, and like they've been really like talking a lot with trans activists and trans groups in relation to creating the show. And they've been doing a lot of like great research. Now, of course, like I'm not there, so like I don't really know how much like thought or anything what this show is going to emerge with in this day and age. But I think that like there can be a certain point when like problematic media can like take on a new life of its own, and as long as you're informed and as long as you like do your research, then it won't be like the same media, of course, but like potentially it could be transformed and potentially it could be better or more well-intentioned. But that's just in regards to Mrs. Doubtfire. I have no idea about anything else. So, and the musical Tootsie on Broadway won the Best Tony Award, and that was completely anti-trans. Well, that was a mess. Broadway League can go, you know.
They can go to heck.
Yeah, Kelly, you're right. You know what? I don't like the movie White Chicks. Hands up, I've never seen it, but something doesn't sit right with me about black
Men.
people about that.
Me either. I don't know if they'd make something like that now.
No, I just think it's like, it's just when you hear, obviously there was so much backlash about things like blackface.
Yeah, it's like just don't.
It's just, I'm just like, so why is it not? Why is it funny the other way round? Sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know why people think it's sort of acceptable.
Yeah.
Okay,
Blackface
I sort of understand why it's like people think it's acceptable one way round than the other way round, but it shouldn't.
Yeah, I don't think it's the same level, but blackface itself, actually, there's a very derogatory history. So in that way, it's different, but at the same time, I'm still just
the entire thing was obviously the one way round is not acceptable at all. Like, I can't even. But I just say it's just so it's even cringe just the other way around as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just 90s was just.
I do. Okay, I am going to defend.
Oh, go for it. Go for it.
A little bit because of movies that came out like. Give me a second. Because of movies that came out like Sorry to Bother You. There's it's a brilliant movie that everyone should watch, but they put on white people voice while they're working in a telecenter, and as a person of color, I use white people voice.
I do too. Yes,
it's a customer service voice. Yeah,
you just have to put it on in order to do the job that you're meant to do. Like, they can't see you. So, hi, this is Sherry. What's up? How can I help you? Oh my God. And then you just have to put on that personality that is non-threatening to white people.
Yeah. No, I totally know what you mean, because I do it myself, and I have one too, and I get everything I want when I call on customer service. I've never had a problem.
Yep.
Yeah, you just do. It's something that we have to do, especially
my parents, both my parents have thick accents. I have since I was very young had to call customer service because I could put on the white person voice. And it's not even a matter of like it's like audio, like it's audible racism now, like if you have an accent, they're not going to respect you as much, and it sucks, but sometimes that's true.
Or
Yeah.
when you forget and they hear your voice and they automatically think that you're going to have an attitude.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm really not mad. I'm just calling. I need to know where my package is.
Yeah.
So I have to turn on my hi. I'm wondering where my package is.
so
Oh, thank you.
nice.
You
Oh my
actually
God, thank
call
you.
UPS for me? Really? Thank you so much.
That's
Yeah.
so nice of you to do
Yeah.
your job.
Yeah. Instead of the, I'm sorry, we can't help you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, but I think you can. If I if I change my voice to this, I bet you will. Oh, look, you did. Yeah.
But just to clarify, because I'm a little confused.
Yes.
But I also might
Yeah.
have lost track. But like you guys think, I mean, like there's a distinction between like blackface and then just audible.
Okay.
Right?
That's okay. Have you ever heard of oh my God, Forrest Gump. He's who's the actor that plays Forrest Gump? Tom Hanks. Have you ever heard of Chet Hanks?
Oh,
Have you ever heard him do patois, Jamaican patois?
Jamaican accent.
Yeah.
But I have not seen a lot of Tom Hanks movies.
Oh no, it's
no,
fine.
no.
This is
It's
a
his
recent
son.
internet thing. He was trying to advertise this app, and he was doing it in all Jamaican accent. This is a white guy, an incredibly privileged white guy, trying to sell himself as a Jamaican person.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, that's gross. It's incredibly gross, but like it's almost
Okay.
when you think about my point was, when you think about Eddie Murphy back in the 80s, he did these skits like him as a white person, and that was kind of almost, it was a subversion in that this is how we see you, but it's never as like disrespectful as blackface is. It's always as these are people still in a position of authority, but you know, like getting made fun of. It's gesturing.
I think he did it. Was it in Coming to America,
Yes.
where they were in the barbershop? I mean, and to me, it's almost, because this is why I don't want to criticize it when they do it. The way he went through all of these characters, he created these characters, and most of them were black, but I think one of them was a Jewish guy. And it was just, it was art.
Yeah.
It wasn't to be cruel.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I don't know. It's not the kind of art that I do, but it's almost like brilliant. Like, you can't believe, it's like he's really playing all of these characters. You know, it's so, and then when I don't know if we call it coding or switching, when you call customer service and you have to be a minority person with a certain tenor in your voice or an accent to understand what happens to you when you call something like customer service. A lot of times, if you're a black person, I'm not kidding you, they automatically think you have an attitude.
They have a
they change the way that they change the way that they respond to you, and they will often change the level of help that they will give you. So when you change your voice to a very non-threatening, when you do that, it changes the way that they respond to you. They can't see me, but if I'm upset because like my package is like 4 days late, I want to call and be like, why is this happening again? Why is my package 4 days late? But if I do that, I'm going to get the "I'm sorry, I can't help you. It'll be there when it gets there" kind of response. But I'm sorry, but every single time when I alter my voice and I'm very, very, I always
get. It doesn't put them on the defensive.
Yes, and every time they will call UPS. I've had them three-way me one time. with the driver, and the driver's like, "Oh, I will turn around," and I'm like, "This is amazing." It just worked. I'm sorry. It's just a thing, and it's how we sometimes have to get through life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to be mean. You know, I can do that. I've got white friends type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something that is done to be mean or to make fun of. It is me trying to get my stuff.
It's basically how you can survive in this world that just respects that voice better.
They hear a Black woman and they're automatically they're already here. I'm just here.
They hear a person with an accent. They hear a person that doesn't seem like they speak English. All of a sudden, they're talking really slowly to you because they think you'll understand them better.
Yeah, it all comes down to the stereotypes that they have seen and read in the media.
Yeah,
Black women are angry.
Yeah, and I think that's what I call most of the time. Yeah. If I sound more myself, they know I'm Black. She must be mad. Here we go. And it's like, no, not here we go. I just want to know where my stuff is.
Please.
Honestly,
we're going to circle back. We'll circle back to me.
Yes.
Because we went off on one of our tangents.
We do that.
I love
Hey, people need to be educated on this because you know what? This is kind of a story. This is something that people didn't know.
I mean, I definitely feel like white people could get a taste of their own medicine. You know, we need it.
Right, so trends in media. Do you think they are going in a positive direction as of recently, or do you think they are still sort of staying the same as they have in the past?
Well, from me, I used to read a lot more books, and as soon as I pick up a book and I'm like, oh wow, this entire cast is going to be white, I just put it down and I just don't finish it. I've noped out of so many books, even if I really, really wanted to know what was going on, what was happening, I've had to nope out of them because I just know that I'm not going to be here. They clearly don't want me because they don't have any Asian people on here. So if you don't want me to read your book, if you don't want to include me in your book, then why do you want me to read it? Is my issue with that. And actually sometimes when I do see representation, I'm just so freaking surprised that I'm like, sus. I don't even know. Let me read everything with a fine-tooth comb because I have to I've been burned way too many times, 20 times burnt, 200 times shy is Sherry.
Yeah. I'm getting there too. It's just it's gonna be this. Is this gonna be the same story again? Is it getting better? I think that in some ways they're getting better. I see some trying, and I'm always for yes. If you're trying, yes. And it's like I want everything and I want it now. I wish we were there already, and I know that it's a process. So I'm trying to be okay with the process. But I saw us moving forward at one point, and then I don't know, almost like a step back, or maybe that.
It's over now. No one writes diversity anymore.
Yeah, I see some weird things happening. That I think have more to do with the toxic fandom, because I feel like as diversity started getting added in, that's kind of when the media, the social media, I will say, started becoming big. So you could see the toxic elements saying how they don't like that. They don't like that. It's too PC. You're just trying to be PC, or you're adding this diversity. It's not the way it was meant to be. So these kind of things were starting to happen at the same time. And so I feel like some people were pulling back while others were forging ahead. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can still see that toxicity, particularly on things like Twitter, where fandoms are just like at each other. And I saw I'm trying to read the comments, but someone had mentioned the Vampire Diaries, and yeah, whew, man. You know, it's like, yay, they have a Black person, but man, she's not treated great at all. At all. It's bad. You know, so it's like, are you trying? But also that has a lot to do with the fandom was not very nice to a particular character for no reason. She saves everybody multiple times and they still hated her. It's like, why?
Yeah. I think there's more of a focus on it now, or because everyone is so with social media, it's talked about more and on a bigger platform. Mm-hmm. You've got I don't know how recent things like hashtag own voices is within the publishing industry, but I feel like it's quite a recent development, and I don't know, the fact that there has to be some sort of own special hashtag. While it's great that, you know, people can feel comfortable using it, it's just like, should we need our own hashtag for specifically for Black stories, for POC stories, to get attention and to get looked at and to get published, sort of thing?
Well, they're typically, in the past, they haven't been pushed to the top. I know N.K. Jemisin, Brandon Sanderson, always says she should be way more known than what she is. He can't figure out why. You know, well, we can figure out why. But I mean, yeah, it's her writing in the fantasies, that fantasy sci-fi realm, you know, it's so good. And why? So yeah, I think in order to get published, to get seen, to get known, because mainstream publishing still kind of is still stuck in that old, it's the old way, or just still catering to sometimes these old stale stories.
Yep.
Yeah. I can jump in on that a little bit, based on from what I've seen on Twitter, because and like reading articles from Twitter, because I'm pretty active in like the YA author community there. So I've seen like a lot of like authors of color talk about this year. And I know there was the movement for like the author salaries at the beginning of the year, releasing the publishing information, releasing their like book advance info, and just how big the pay disparity was between the white authors and then all the authors of color. And it was just, and then of course adding to that gender and everything. And it was just really, really disheartening for a lot of people I know. And then I know that like several movements on Twitter, or at least I've been seeing them most on Twitter. Like We Need Diverse Books.org has been a huge champion of like diverse books, and just getting programs up and running to promote and to uplift like authors of color, everything. And I have like some statistics for publishing if you like care, right here, like about YA and
yeah.
Okay. So this one study from the Cooperative Children's Book Center released its 2019 survey results on diversity in children's and YA literature. So it breaks it down of the main characters. So it says Black/African 11.9%, First Native Nations 1%, Asian/Asian American 8.7%, Latinx 5.3%, Pacific Islander I'm so sorry. Pacific Islander 0.05%, and then of course white with the overwhelming majority is 41.8%. Interestingly enough, it continues on to say animal/other, whatever that could be, 29.2%, and then LGBTQ plus 3.1%, disability 3.4%. And actually, this is from We Need Diverse Books, actually, which is
the survey that goes, animals are more important than any other character that is not white.
Yeah.
Survey, yeah.
Wow.
I was horrified to read that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely horrified that animals as a protagonist was higher than any protagonist who is not white. Like, not surprised, unfortunately, but I was absolutely horrified. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. It also has a breakdown of books featuring characters that were written or illustrated by authors or illustrators of the same race, if you want to know that too.
See, I find a lot of times a lot of authors have to fight for the illustrator doing their book to illustrate their protagonist as the actual race that they are,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to just some random white person. A lot of fights with, but my main character is black, so why are you drawing the main character on the front of this book not black?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's down to marketing again.
I just threw the link in the chat, but that's just from that one article. Oh wait, StreamYard might have caught it, but
Oh.
If you send it through private chat, Haley, I'll try and stick it in.
so sad.
Yeah, I was looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
I googled own voices, and there's like this is from some random writer who wrote a blog about it, but they're complaining about how it's gatekeeping because then what about the white people who want to write about all of this stuff too?
What about you?
Everybody's publishing your stuff. Everybody's publishing your stuff.
Yeah,
I think you're gonna be okay.
It's like the Republicans who went to talk to the House the other day and wore a mask that said censored.
Yeah,
that
that senator is also a like huge figure in QAnon. So
is that Bobart?
Bobart.
There were two. No, she's the gun one.
She is the same one.
The new one. Oh. The new one.
Okay. The new one. Yeah.
It's like this.
What about people?
What about the white people? It's like, so if I had a bowl that was filled with Skittles, and then I chucked in 10 M&Ms, and then the people who enjoy Skittles will still be going, but what about the people who enjoy Skittles? Why aren't those 10 M&Ms also Skittles? It's just like, you have enough Skittles.
Yeah.
Why do you need more? You don't need any more Skittles.
Thank you, Sarah.
So you're not like we have survived how many years?
Millennia, darling.
Awful representation, like, and you can't handle one movie, or you can't handle one book.
Oh my God! Can we talk about Crazy Rich Asians for like a hot minute?
Yes,
like,
we can.
Because Crazy Rich Asians happened, and then they were like surprised that an all Asian movie made money.
Why?
I wasn't surprised.
No, not
I
at
don't know
all.
why they were surprised.
And like To All the Boys I Loved Before.
Yeah.
It can't be successful if there's no white people in it. What are you talking about?
But how do we
That's not
sell this to the
realistic.
white people? They're gonna be there because it's a great freaking movie, okay? And also, it was the first movie by an American team, by an American production company that was fully staffed, fully like acted and casted by like Asian actors that wasn't kung fu.
And they were all real people, and they weren't stereotypes, and they weren't.
I mean,
No,
if
they were-
anything, it was just
they were
mocking
all
the rich.
different.
But you know what? Eat the rich. That's fine. But it was a great movie full of representation, and
Yeah.
it wasn't just showing like Asian people being like scientists or whatever the f ever. But
It was, and they
It
were.
wasn't.
There was
it
a
wasn't
variety of Asian. Like it was one. There were one culture, but they were all different. It's like when you. I'm sorry, but when there's only like maybe one Asian person in the whole book or in the whole movie, and they only got like 5 lines, all they can do is give them the stereotypes. Like
yeah,
Crazy Rich Asians shows you that they're even there.
there are funny
They're
Asians.
Yeah,
Okay,
they're funny. They're all different. They all have personality, and they all have like common sense things. It seems crazy that you have to explain this because they've been writing white people like this forever. But
and
yeah,
in
Asian
the
people
books,
are
in the books themselves, one of the characters has like they actually talk about the mental health of a character. I know. They're like, this person is going to go through therapy, and there's going to be certain things that, like, you know, this is what bipolarity looks like. And you know what, you Asian people, you stop freaking sweeping that under the rug, because it is an actual problem. People have mental health issues, and you can't just like you can't pray that away. There's they actually talk about things in the books. I've read all 3 of them now recently, and I just kept getting shocked. I just kept being like, this is exactly what it's like. It's not even about like the whole like wealth disparity thing. Yeah, because I am incredibly poor. But you know what I like to see? I like seeing aunties being catty AF. I like knowing that I wasn't weird for having a matriarch of a grandma that ruled everything with an iron fist. Like these are the cultural like not milestones. These are the cultural touchstones of growing up in a huge Asian family.
And this is why diversity matters. Look how excited she is about talking about this movie. I'm sorry, it matters. This is why. This is why.
Too. Everybody needs to see themselves represented, not just as the sidekick, not just in you know, an absolute terrible, horrible, stereotypical way.
Yeah.
We exist. It's not just white people that exist in this world, and it's not just the black kids who are all in gangs who exist in this world, or the Asians who do kung fu and we are. It is
and eat weird things. Which yes, okay, we do eat weird things. It's delicious.
I'm sure to a lot of cultures we eat weird things in England. I mean, Scotland eats haggis. Like,
Haggis.
I'm not going to drag them for it because that's their traditional, you know, culinary food or whatever. I'm not going to drag them. It's different.
I'm sorry, it's made almost entirely out of beer. It is delicious.
Right, so lovely comment from Steffi, which I do remember hearing. The outrage that Parasite won Best Picture at the Oscars, and then the outrage when it dropped to streaming services that people had to watch it with subtitles.
People are so
Wait.
entitled.
That happened with.
Yeah, people got angry because is it Korean?
It is Korean.
Korean, because a film made in Korea with Korean actors and whose actors spoke in Korean had subtitles.
So the thing is, they expected us to do this. They expected America to do a thing that they did to the Japanese version of The Ring, wherein they did the entire thing, but with white people.
Yeah, basically.
They just redid the entire movie, but with white people. And then us Asian people had to be like, oh, well, I guess I'm just going to have to rent the original Japanese version to see people that look like us. Because you know what? You cannot show a movie in theaters unless it's a specific kind of cinema that showcase people who are not white. People are going to get confused. They're going to set fire to the theater.
No.
I don't see the issue with subtitles anyway. Like,
Me either.
I have subtitles on like 100% all the time because it's allowed, because I can't have the TV up too high, or because I'm not paying attention. Like, because I used to watch anime, my eyes just automatically go to the bottom.
Yeah.
Like, my eyes are just always there.
I will
subtitles.
I will defend people who don't like subtitles a little bit, and it's because there are some people who have like pretty severe ADHD, and they won't be able to stop looking.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. Like there.
But to complain that a foreign movie has subtitles, so
that is the problem.
When you have no trouble reading subtitles,
that's the problem.
I don't see what the issue is at all whatsoever.
I'm also an anime fan, Cat W.
I've not watched it anime in ages, but
it is great. Like, the new seasons of anime are coming up. Oh my goodness, I have feelings. Again, also, can we just like sprinkle in a little bit of there are white people in anime too. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
All of these Asian people have blonde hair and brown, blue eyes, and I'm like, what? Excuse you.
I think the annoying thing is for me when Americans try to do the live action remakes of. Sherry's gone. Of anime, and knowing full well that these characters are 90% most likely to be Japanese and are originated in Japan, like they have to cast at least a white actor for the main character, Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Still haunts my dreams. Have I even actually watched the entirety of that movie? I don't think I have, but all I remember is thinking, why is Goku white? Why is he Canadian or something? Why is he
and they gave Goku an Asian girlfriend. That
is every white teenage watching anime. Like, they did that for the teenage anime fans. The white anime fans in America. I'm sorry. That's who they made that movie for.
And isn't that also why the Avatar creative team split with Netflix recently? Because Netflix was like, we want to cast white people. And then the Avatar creative team was like, no, you suck.
What I heard was they wanted to, I think this is just rumors, they wanted to age up the characters so they could include violence, blood, and sex. That is what I heard.
That's disgusting.
That's kind of not the point of Avatar. Just
it's not. But that is what I heard. Like, they're trying to make it for the original fans who watched it 15, 20 years ago. Like, no, give me my cute little 12-year-old Airbender. That's all I want. You don't need to give up. I don't need to see that part of their relationship.
Look, Aang,
it'll ruin everything for me.
Also, Avatar: The Last Airbender is perfect. It is a perfect piece of media. Everything about it is amazing and beautiful and right. And they had already done it. Why are you trying to recycle the same thing? Like, you've milked this cow. Leave it alone. It's done. It's done. The story's done. It's done. Stop trying to get the same amount of like cash out of this cow. This cow has gone. It's gone to pasture. It's moved to a different farm, okay? Stop it. Get new stories. Sorry.
There's only one issue with Avatar: The Last Airbender, and that is that there was no 4th season because they decided to do this piece of crap movie instead.
Ugh. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
But yeah, no, the whole whitewash of Avatar: The Last Airbender was. There's so many things wrong with that movie. I don't even want to think about it. So let's cycle back to diversity, guys. I think Nia, you made a comment earlier in regards to fantasy and sci-fi and how they are the easiest genres to put diverse people in because there is no precedent for there being an all-white town, or I never grew up around black people or Asian people, etc., etc. Like, it's not my normal.
They're not constrained by the racist cage that is our reality.
Exactly. Exactly. But it still happens.
I know.
People
it makes me sad.
Do it. I think one of the reasons is when people go fantasy, and I think it's more when adult goes fantasy, it's always medieval sort of fantasy realm with the knights and this, that, and the other. And that was when black people weren't invented. Clearly.
Yeah, like we just came out of nowhere. But even throughout Europe, you can see all of those old paintings, and there's all these brown and black people in these paintings, but we didn't exist until colonialism, I guess. I don't know.
Clearly, yes.
Does anybody like really realize how close Africa is to Europe?
It's right there.
It's
it's a boat ride.
It is a boat.
See, I've seen pictures of wealthy aristocratic black Victorians living in England. So to turn around and say, oh well, black people, Asian people, like, they wouldn't have existed in England in 1427 or whatever, so they can't exist in my fantasy.
They had boats.
They did. but they did. Oh gosh, I saw a couple of years ago, I saw a cartoon back, I think it was a cartoon type of painting back from I don't know if it was the 14 or 1500s, but they were dressed in their kind of medieval clothes, and there's 3 characters talking to another 3 characters, and one of the characters on one side was a tall black woman, and I'm like, of all of the white people, of all the 6 people, the most interesting story to me is like, where'd she come from?
Yeah.
That's the story I want to know. Where'd that lady come from? Yeah. She's one who looks different. Like, what's her story? Why is she in medieval? I don't know if it was France or around that area. Like, what's her story? Why is she hanging out with these dudes? What's going on?
Yeah.
But they existed.
With how long boat travel has existed, and with how long every single culture around the world has existed, it's like, how can you even think that they wouldn't have interacted or met or traveled anywhere else in all of that time? Like, the 1700s wasn't the first time that people ever traveled anywhere.
Yeah.
It's even if there's no physical evidence, like, that doesn't mean it can't happen, basically. I don't have an issue with diversity. That's not how I want to word this. My trouble that I have, and I'll speak directly from my experience because I write nothing but fantasy, is how I go about writing diverse characters in fantasy, especially if I am creating my own world. I don't like necessarily basing my cultures in my fantasy books off of actual cultures. So it's not like in Shadow of Bone, say, where one of the countries is based off of Russia. I think it is one of the countries is definitely Asian. Another one of the countries is another culture. It's not like that. So I can't have people assume based on the cultural similarities between the real culture and the made up culture. So my issue is always, how do I get across that this character or this group of people is representative of Asia, or representative of Native Americans in a place where the words Native American or Asia would not typically exist. They are always issues I have, because then it always comes down to describing what the characters look like.
Yeah.
Which is a problem in itself, which is also where a lot of stereotypes can evolve from, in the way that you end up describing all of your characters. So you'd get almond shaped eyes for Asians.
As an Asian person who doesn't have almond shaped eyes, exactly. I'm just saying.
Exactly. And it's like, okay, fair enough, like they have dark skin, or they have this type of hair, is fine. But then I honestly do say I do struggle with how I describe certain characters who in my head look a certain way without going stereotypical, but making it clear enough that these characters are not cis white American looking white person.
Yeah, because typically when we're writing, people aren't we don't just necessarily describe ourselves as we're going through the story. So it's a matter of, how do you get across, that this person, I'll say in my fantasy novel, my NaNoWriMo project, it's kind of like that. And I said I've got these there's 5 princesses technically, and they all look different. And in my head and in my fan art of my own work, one of them is what you would consider Asian. One of them, you know what I mean? And they look they're all very different. One of them is what you would consider to be Latina, but they're not that, because these are made up lands. So I know what they are. And when a description of them comes up, someone sees and they like the long dark hair or whatever, I know what that is, but not the reader's not necessarily going to know what that is if they're more fairer skin. If they're darker skin, there's ways that I can describe, that he sees her and her skin's the color of mahogany, and whatever. There's things that you can do, but when you're writing, there's only so much you can do at the same time.
Yeah.
Because they're not Asian. Or they're not.
They're often
not Brazilian.
This is something that I'm going to. This is something that I'm going to just hand to you. I really like the term kittenish eyes for whatever it is I've got going on right here, because it's cute. And it comes across as it's slanted. It's a cat eye.
Okay.
But it's also adorable. I think words are incredibly powerful, and if you break past stereotypical words and just go for things that touch on it, the English language is vast and many varied, and we can come through. We can go. We can describe. Yeah. We can work. And also you, Nia, are incredibly lucky because you're an artist. You have that superpower of being able to go, this is what my character looks like, and putting it into a visual format. I'm thinking maybe we need to borrow something, a little bit of a something from like Japan and go, hey, sometimes our books have pictures in it, because then otherwise you're not going to know what they look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, guys, 2021, we're cancelling maps at the front of fantasy books. We're adding character portfolios.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes. Not just
That's what we
like the Victorian books either.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, that's what I do. You can't whitewash my characters.
Mhm.
Telling you, you're not gonna be able to do it. I'm like,
This
no,
is what they
this is
look
what she looks like. She is not blonde with blue eyes. She's just not.
I always try to describe my characters like as soon as I possibly can. I've recently noticed in a lot of YA books I've read, like I'm 50 pages in and I'm like,
I don't know.
it's first person. I'm like, what do you look like? Like I know what other characters look like. Like, what do you look like? And I make a guess. And then when I find out, I'm like, oh,
You were
okay.
wrong.
I assumed you had this color hair, but okay, you don't. And oh, you've got olive skin, so you're not white like I just assumed you were because you didn't have any description of yourself whatsoever. So I make it a point to, like, as soon as I possibly can.
Yeah, if you're a writer out there, white is not my default. So if you don't tell me what they look like and you want them to be white, white's not my default. I'm gonna make them really cool.
Yeah.
I will make them diverse as I can.
It's not.
You might as well tell me what they are.
Yeah. Don't let people assume. It's never a good thing.
Yeah.
Creates arguments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mia has a very interesting question, which I slightly added to, ever so slightly though. In shows like, if you have seen them, like Bridgerton, Still Star-Crossed, sorry, Roger and Hammerstein's Cinderella, and I threw in Hamilton here as well, where race doesn't matter in regards to the characters. What do you think? Is that good? Is that bad? Is that something that should continue? Obviously,
Should absolutely continue.
Bridgerton is, when is it? Bridgerton set the Victorian era, which we've obviously just had a discussion about.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, in the Roger and Hammerstein Cinderella was black. One of the parents was Asian, weren't they? And obviously, Hamilton is the founding fathers who were obviously not people of color, were played and portrayed by people of color, which apparently confused a lot of Americans.
Yeah.
Those Americans are dumb.
I didn't know that Thomas Jefferson was black. I'm like,
sorry.
Just roll with it. Just roll with it. I personally believe that, look, you're not replacing history. History is always going to remain history. It happened already. It happened. No one's going to say that, no, canonically, Queen Elizabeth was Asian. No one's going to win that argument. Right. So just let actors who are able to play those roles, because if this is a true meritocracy, and that's what they keep saying that it is, then the people who deserve to be in those parts, the people who can embody those roles, should be the ones that are playing those roles, regardless of their ethnicity. And the market, the world market is huge and are going to contain plenty of people, because you know what? I am sick of being an Asian person who keeps getting sold skin bleaching products. Okay?
Yeah.
I am really, really, really freaking tired of that. I am incredibly upset every time an aunt of mine goes, "Wow, you've been seeing a lot of sun." No, I love my skin color. I've always liked my skin color. Do not tell me this is not right. Do not tell me that I need to put chemicals on my skin in order to look a certain way, in order to be accepted. And the way we fix that is by putting people of color in positions that aren't just the maids.
Yes.
Yep.
Sherry,
What she said.
Of your heart.
What Sherry said.
I have many feelings.
Yes. No, have all the feelings, Sherry.
If I could have a follow-up question.
Yes.
Like specifically for Hamilton. I know that a lot of Black playwrights and like pretty prominent Black actors and people have been like criticizing Lin-Manuel Miranda for making the founding fathers people of color on stage and for casting people of color in place of these men who, like, you know, as we see in history, like owned slaves and did a lot of horrible things. Yeah, do you think there's like a time and place for that, or do you have any other thoughts that, I don't know, that you'd want to say on that at all? Anybody?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me because I think that there are, as someone who enjoys history, I think that there are a lot of people who were learning some of these things for the first time and actually became interested in it when they saw people that look like them singing about it and talking about it. So if it doesn't bother me. To me, it's art. So I admittedly, as someone who likes history a lot, but also is an artist, when the two blend, I'm just like, I don't know. It puts me in a happy place. I enjoy it.
Storytelling to me is the original form of education. Like, storytelling is how you get information across. It's how you've been getting information across over the millennia. This is why we have creation myths. This is why we have, I don't want to go there, but this is why we have like pantheons. Storytelling is how you explain the world. And if you're going to educate people, if you're going to make people want to know more about the world that's around them, put historical characters in a different context. Because why else would I want to care about this person other than because I've been told to care about them, unless they were portrayed by someone that looks like me. I want representation. I need representation. And there's a comment by Steffi right now that is, at the same time, I'd appreciate when they have actual gay or autistic actors play these roles. Like, we need to see more of our own rise up.
Mm-hmm.
We just need to see that. And let's not pretend that this argument about, oh, well, they own slaves, so, you really shouldn't be talking about how you shouldn't be elevating them. You shouldn't be putting them in the discourse. But you know what? They are being talked about. This slave ownership is being talked about. These bits and pieces of history are coming back up because they were given a new fresh paint.
Yep.
They were given a new perspective. People know about this now. They know about the fact that the founding fathers were racist, and not just because like the world itself that we're living in is racist, but because kids who were like, oh, this fandom is really cool, looked it up because they were writing freaking fan fiction. They educated themselves because they wanted to know the canon. And you know what? That is absolutely fantastic. You go off, you go get that knowledge, even if that knowledge comes from a weird place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a massive difference between people getting hired for a stage play, and obviously where it's based off of the talent and their skill set and, you know, things like that. Then there's also a difference with casting white people when the character is canonically black, or casting like Steffi was mentioning, people who are not autistic or not disabled as autistic or disabled characters. I think in stage, because I feel like stage is not on Broadway is not as accessible to a lot of people as mainstream media is. It's almost its own different art form in a way than it is actors representing and playing in a movie, which is going to reach a much larger audience. So I think that's one of the issues that I constantly hear, or a lot of argument that I have people saying, like, why is it okay for you to cast a POC as a white person, but it's not okay for me to have a white person cast in what was canonically or originally a POC character's role, which obviously I think we've touched on it before. You've got enough skills,
yeah,
as it is, but the world is a diverse place, and there's no one in this entire world who can deny that fact. And it's just not, I don't know how to quite phrase this, how I want to phrase it, so it might be phrased a little bit weird. It's not statistically possible to have a story where there is no diversity at all whatsoever. I mean, even if you live in an all-white town, there are still going to be disabled people, there are still going to be autistic people, there are still going to be LGBTQ people, but they're white. There's still going to be people who have Black or Asian or another culture in their blood, in their, you know, genes somewhere. So it's just all these excuses that people come up with about why to not be diverse, or adding diverse characters is political now.
If you think about it, people in the Amazon have seen a white person. How many people in like white person town like America has ever seen like an Asian person? Or like you can identify people who like haven't realized that a culture exists in like white communities more than like those far-flung cultures can be like, oh yeah, America exists. Like when you think about Borat, people were like, oh my god, there's such a thing as Kazakhstan.
yeah,
it's a real country. It exists. It's a real country. And they're like, no, it's like from this movie. Girl, no. And it's like that's the kind of thing that you should be pushing, because white people have seen white people.
yeah.
White people will always constantly see white people.
Yeah. In this day and age, there's no reason to take away diversity. And I say this when it comes to people of color. If you're got a story that was written in the 70s and 80s, and now you're putting it into a movie or making a series of it, there's no reason to keep all of those characters white. You know, if they were all white, it's okay to reach out, to branch out into a wider audience. It's okay to be inclusive. I don't think it's ever okay to take away diversity, but I think it's okay to add some in. The white people aren't going to go anywhere, and I don't necessarily want that's not what I want anyway. I don't want you to take a all white story, I guess, and just, you know, just take away all the people. That's not what I want. But to diversify it, give people of color, people with disabilities, LGBTQ plus people, give them some of these prominent characters. It just blend it up, mix it up. That's, for me, that's all I'm asking for. It doesn't have to be an all Asian cast or an all Latino cast or an all Black cast. It doesn't have to be that, but I do want to see a world that looks like the world that I live in. And I have biracial children. I would love for my children to see, biracial people, Black people, Latino people, Asian people. I would love to have more shows and more books that feature that. To me, it just doesn't seem that hard.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm saying this, but why? It's almost like, why do I even have to say this? But it's sad that we do. So here I am emphasizing that when we say we want to be included, we are not saying that we don't want white people in this, or we don't want this type of people, or we don't want, that type of people. That's never what I mean anyway. And it's never my intention to be exclusive of anyone. It's always my intention to be inclusive. That's what I want to read. That's what I want to see. So when I'm looking for a show to watch or a book to read, if it looks inclusive, it perks me up. I'm like, oh, what's this about? It just automatically, I'm like, curious. I wonder if this is going to be good. Yeah. It's like already I know it's going to be different. It's not going to be the same humdrum, because already I can see that whoever has written this or produced this has put in the effort to, all right, we're going to do this different. If you're going to do that different, what else are you going to do that's different? You know what I mean?
Piggybacking on that statement, if you're going to make them be wearing corsets on naked skin and having all of that boobies coming out, then you know what? Some of them should be POC. The clothing isn't even historically accurate. So what are you trying to play?
They had a thing on underneath.
Yeah, like there's shifts.
Also, and all there's some fantastic people on YouTube who will show you how to put these clothes together. So when you're trying to write your stories, your historical fiction novels, you can actually see what pieces are there and which ones are going to tie up in the front, which ones are going to tie up in the back, how many layers, what the layers are called, what's the petticoat, there are people on YouTube, they're fantastic, and they will tell you exactly what the gentlemen wear, so you'll know all of the pieces. So if you're writing a romance novel and you've got the guy's going to rip off his clothes too, find out how many pieces he's got, how many layers of jackets. And
one of them is Carolina Zabrowska, I think.
Yes,
I love her,
and I like it when they tell you which ones are doing a good job on their shows and movies, and which movies got it totally wrong, but they looked good getting it wrong.
Like also explain, like there are cod pieces. Okay, so just imagine that. It means like those breeches that you see, they are not as they are depicted in real life. They're actually kind of cool and weird. We
go off on some weird tangents, I know, but yeah, it's interesting. But for those writers who are thinking about writing historical fiction, check that out before you just have someone ripping open something, because it's like, how are they doing that?
They're Superman.
That thing is strapped up from the back, and he's just gonna. Don't think that's gonna work.
It's made out of literal bone.
He'll be there for hours. He'll be exhausted. He's gonna pass out before y'all get in the action. So, yeah, but put those POC in those historical fictions. I love it. Of course, I like historical fiction though, so I might be biased.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Haley.
The rule that I've been following is like write diversely, not. Oh, I forget the other part of this. This was going to be like a really cute saying. It was like write diversity, but don't write diversity. I'm sorry, I filled you off. No, it's like write diversely, but if you're not like of like the race or anything, then don't write like that person's experiences, because you yourself haven't experienced those.
Yeah,
I agree.
if you're a white author and you're writing a black character, you do not need to write about the black character's struggles with racism or growing up in a certain way or in a certain situation, because you did not go through that situation. You have not been a victim of racism, no matter what some white people might say. You are writing a person, you are writing a character who is black, or who is Asian, or who is Native American. Like, they're just people that I don't understand how that's such a difficult thing to.
Yeah, every day is not about the struggle. As a Black woman, I can tell you most days I'm just living my life. Every day is not about the struggle of being Black. Those stories do need, I think I've said this before, but those stories do need to be told, and the right people should tell them. But then there's also the everyday type of story of a girl, trying to find romance, or or who discovers that she's a superhero. I'm still on this Black people as superheroes. I'm all for it. So there could be just a Black girl who gets bit by a I don't know, a beetle one day, and she
Spider.
Spider. Yeah, I wish that was taken. Maybe a butterfly. I don't know.
I was also thinking
butterfly DNA in her, and becomes a superhero. Who knows? But something else,
I was also thinking about how because history is so whitewashed, like people don't even know that the origin of mathematics was born in the Middle East. People don't even know that steel itself comes from India. People don't know that the democracy that American democracy is based on was built by Native Americans, by like the first people's nations.
Yeah.
Like, no one tells these stories, but you know what? Like, there weren't actually a lot of white people in the past either. It's just the victors are the ones that tell the story. And the reason why it's so difficult for us to publish our stories is because it is going against the grain of the stories that are being commonly told. This is how history is supposed to be. Don't question it. I'm questioning it. I'm questioning it because it doesn't add up.
America is not that old of a country.
No.
When you compare it to, say, England. But then England is not that old of a country when you compare it to Japan, China, when you compare it to Native Americans, Aztecs,
Thailand,
other cultures, Thailand, who have had thousands of years worth of culture over us, who had a few hundred years extras culture worth of over America. But because England went around
colonizing
everywhere.
They learned really well from the Romans.
They definitely did.
And then obviously
I learned it from you, Dad.
And we're gonna do it better.
America went and colonized the entirety of the continent. Obviously they were the ones in charge, so they were the ones who wrote the stories, and it's going to favor isn't that how you get the fun little story of Thanksgiving?
Yes.
Like the pilgrims and the Indians shared the Indians came and shared their food and welcomed them into their home, and that's Thanksgiving. Like that's how you get stories like that, taking away
The agency and
the
the point of
agency.
view.
And taken away the culture that has been there for thousands of years before you even got there.
Yeah.
That's who was it? Just put Steffi. Her story was wildly different from what Disney has told. Yeah.
Yes.
I'll be honest, I don't know Pocahontas's true story, because obviously being English, I was never taught it. But I do know that Disney has a very, very Disney filter on their attempt to be diverse and speak to that specific culture, which is probably not the best way to go about it, to be fair, but there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, let's not. We're not going to talk about the true story of Pocahontas on stream, because that is 100% a deal to get demonetized. That is let's not go there.
It was not the true Disney version. Let's say as that. Okay, I think this is in regards to white authors writing, or white writers writing. Oh my god, that was horrible to say. Black characters.
Yes, I was going to mention this.
Their struggles.
Yeah, I was going to mention this. I don't know if you would want to collab, but that would be a good way if you have, if say you have a story and it's two characters and you don't feel comfortable writing the black character, you could maybe say this is the story arc and maybe get someone to collab with you to write the black main character while you write the white main character, and make it work that way. Depending on how in depth you want to go on the character. Sensitivity reader if you feel comfortable writing it, a sensitivity reader afterwards or throughout the process could be helpful.
That specific culture and with that experience assisting you as you write. That's the husband, by the way. So
but yeah,
first time he's ever been on one of the streams. But yeah, it is. See, I always say try to avoid it, because there are other people who are of that race and culture
who want to tell that
story. But with how difficult it is sometimes for that story to be told to a wider audience, it is possible to be done if you are a white writer, but you need to go about it in the right way, and don't just assume that what you're writing is correct or believable or relatable or realistic, or not 100% chock full of block of stereotypes that you have seen everywhere else.
Yeah, because sometimes you don't even know, you might not even realize that something that you're writing is a stereotype. It could be something you're like, but I've seen this a dozen times I see this in every movie that I watch about Black people from this town. So I thought I was doing it right. And half the time we Black people are ripping our hair out. Like, why do they keep writing us like that? So you're seeing it, and because you're not talking to other Black people, you don't know that we're frustrated with this trope or this storyline that keeps getting told. So you're thinking, oh, this must be this way because I've seen this in about 12 movies. So I'm going to write my Black character like this. And then you're just perpetuating the same thing that they've been doing. So get your someone who, depending on how big of a character it is in your story. Like if you feel like, I really want to tell this story, depending on how big of a character, I would get someone to collab on it with me. Just to be on, especially if it's delving in on those issues, because it's not your story, and if you get it wrong, you're really gonna feel the heat for it. If it's really a story that you're like, I really think that this is it's a good story, and I get some help, and get someone who will tell you the truth. Like, no, don't tell this story. Or say, you can tell this story and I'm going to help you. Or I know someone who can help you tell this story. You know, so get someone who's going to tell you the truth about the story that you're trying to tell. But don't just jump in and jack up someone's story, because if you do it wrong, you're going to get it.
Yeah. I think Charlie makes a good point with the comment. It's more beneficial to recognize that old movies and TV shows and forms of social media are bad representations. I think it's Warner Brothers. At the beginning of a lot of their old cartoons, they have a statement saying that these were our depictions of the time. They're not representative of the world we live in now or the thoughts that we have. But changing them is just erasing the history behind it, and that's not the way to go. But then I do know a lot of other places who remove certain elements of their work to get rid of anything that might be unsavory.
I think another thing to add to Charlie's comment is that, you see, when you first watch Disney movies, you're young, normally, correct? Your mind is still forming. You're still trying to get an understanding of the world. I do not think that you should get rid of these stories. However, I think you should introduce them at maybe a later time. You need to fully educate a kid in how the world actually is before you start introducing all of these harmful ideas into them. For example, I was reading an article about a little girl who said that her dark skin was terrible and it's gross, and it just means that she's bad because all of her tiny child life, and she's 4 years old, she's been seeing white Barbies, she's been seeing white fairies, she's been seeing white princesses, she's been seeing white mermaids. It's always been white, 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 white. If you want to be the main character, you have to be white. So you can't look at yourself and think I'm pretty. You can't look at yourself and think I'm worth it. I'm good just the way I am. Even though the stories that are being told are I'm worth it and I'm good just the way I am. That's not what the kid themselves are seeing. Because they haven't been told that. They haven't been educated in that way yet because they are a child and you don't really necessarily know how to say to them other than showing them all of these different people. So I don't think you should erase these artifacts of our past. However, maybe introduce them later. Maybe have them be seen by older kid minds, because then you'll have more of an understanding of what's going on. But starting from day one and being inundated with a bunch of weird cultural stereotypes, sometimes you only learn things once and it sticks that way while your mind is still forming, while it's still malleable. That's when you should be introducing the idea of diversity. People look different. Sometimes people are in wheelchairs. Sometimes people have different energy levels than other people. There's such a thing as mental illness, and it's okay. And if you are going through that, please seek help. And this is how you do it. You know what I mean? Have these cultural artifacts of our past are important because they are a touchstone to who we are in our past, and we can never forget our past. We should always look forward into the future, yes, but as soon as you erase all of the pockmarks, all of the hideous cracks in the mirror that is our history, you are going to be erasing years, centuries of real people's struggle, real people's actual stories. Because if you look at how the movie Pocahontas was made, they did have the cultural representation. They did speak to First Nations peoples, but those peoples were ripped away from it after the movie started getting successful. And that should be a story that is still told. There are stories within stories about Mulan. and there's stories and stories about Pocahontas, and you cannot take that away. You cannot bury stories. You should only tell them.
Mm-hmm. I agree that there is a lot of nuance in like a lot of these subjects that we are talking about, but
yes.
Wow, that was sorry.
don't apologize.
Don't apologize. It needs to be said. It needs to be said.
Yay.
Yay.
Drink some water. That was a lot of words that just happened.
But I do agree that there's a lot of nuance in it and in everything that we're talking about. But like that doesn't mean, like you said, that the nuance can't be introduced to kids at a young age. Like white kids, we can learn about race. Oh, no, I'm not a kid. We're
kid confirmed. Hello,
when
fellow
you were a kid. Yeah.
A lot of people like to say that like little kids don't see race. So you've got like the the little girls who are twins because they are wearing the same dress or they have the same hairstyle.
Yeah, I love those.
White and things like that. And it's true that a lot of these stereotypes and everything are learned. They're learned from books, they're learned from media, they're learned from parents and guardians and the people that you grow up with. So definitely the earlier you start to learn not the stereotypes, but that the world is diverse and all of these diverse people all from these cultures are just normal people represented in a way that you see on screen, is the way to go. Children's media is more diverse, I think, for young children than it is for teenagers and adults. Because as a mum of 4 who watches a lot of children's TV constantly throughout the day, they do actually have animal protagonists notwithstanding, they do have quite a good range of diverse characters in their TV shows. I was very sad to learn that one of the TV shows we watch and turned out apparently to be the first animated kids show with a black protagonist for that age range. But in the animation, there seems to be a lot more diversity than when you get with the older kids and you've got the live action, the Disney Channel shows, the Riverdale crap that keeps being spewed out, and then obviously into the older adult TV shows, like I'm going to spout some really old ones. I do apologize. I don't watch TV. Like Friends, like The Office and things like that. The real life representation, which in media is, I suppose, more beneficial and more important than an animated version. But yeah, I just find it really weird that the older you get in regards to content, the less diverse it seems to be. When you think that would be more important when you are older to have that diversity growing up and growing around you.
Maybe the producers are older too.
You got to think about they're the ones who are making and financing, and so they keep like it's a cycle. They just keep perpetuating the same thing over and over, and that's really, it's unfortunate, and particularly in mainstream. And then I think sometimes when shows and whatnot do try to branch out, the budget's so low that it doesn't come out as good as, say, someone writes a book and it's a great book, so they're like, we're going to make a show of it, but we've got this teeny tiny budget because they're going to give the budget to the big, white show, but we're going to let them try it out with this teeny tiny budget. And so then you have people are like, it just didn't look like we hoped it would look. And so the ratings aren't going to be great, and it's not going to reach as wide of an audience, because it's not going to get promoted. So it's almost like there's so many strikes against it.
It's almost designed to fail.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and that's very unfortunate. There's a lot of things. There are books that I would love to see, but especially because I read more in sci-fi and fantasy, I worry that if it's not put out well, that it's going to actually diminish it. And so I worry about that. But at the same time, I don't want it to not happen. I don't want people to think, oh, well, if I write an epic novel and it's diverse, it's not going to be able to take off like something like Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But book form, what this person has written that's very diverse might be just as good or even better than that. But it's not going to get promoted the same. And then if someone does decide, hey, we're going to give it a shot on Netflix or Amazon, they're not going to get the budget to make it as good as it can be. And then it's going to be like, oh, look, we tried that diverse thing and it flopped.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not actually what really happened.
Yeah.
I want to bring up One Day at a Time here.
I was just thinking about that.
Which had 3 seasons on Netflix before it was cancelled due to, I don't know why it was cancelled. I'm assuming due to not as many views as Netflix wanted it to have. But then, like, I stumbled across it, like maybe a couple of weeks after it came out. I had no idea it existed. I had no idea when any of the new seasons were coming out. Like I heard about it absolutely nowhere.
No
And
promotion.
It's like you wonder why it didn't get as many views as you wanted it to. It's not because it was a show about a Cuban family. It was because you didn't market it or advertise it as much as you could have done. It's a fantastic show, and it dealt with so many fantastic issues. Not just regarding race, but regarding LGBTQ and cancel culture and all of this stuff. And it's like they're trying to appease people by putting these shows out.
But they're trying to do it in the cheapest way possible.
Trying to do it in the cheapest way possible to like prove a point. It didn't do very well in the ratings, did it? So it can't be that requested, or it can't be that needed if no one's watching it.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate. And then I fear that it will discourage writers from writing that way. If you feel like, well, if I write this novel that I'm going to put my blood, sweat, and tears in, but I want it to be diverse, no one's going to promote it. No one's going to pick it up. You know what I mean? If you're going to put a couple of years or more into writing an epic novel, and then it's going to go nowhere because you think nobody wants to read it, but it's not that nobody wants to read it. People are definitely interested in reading it, but it's not going to be promoted by the powers that be, that control the money, that control what's going to get published, what's going to get promoted after it gets published, because it's more than just getting published. You then got to get promoted. You've got to be out there, and you'll notice that some things that were not even good, I'm not going to name names, some things that were really bad get a lot of promotion and make millions upon millions of dollars. And it's like that. Yeah. I read like 2 paragraphs and I could not, and you forgot how many books in a series and now a movie with a bunch of, it is terrible.
Yeah. That is that's one of the reasons why diversity is so important. Like, in all honesty, in a perfect world, there should not be in any way, shape or form any focus on making sure that the shows are diverse, that they have all of these different cultures and races and mental illness and all things. That shouldn't be an issue. It should just already be.
Yeah.
But the reason it's pushed so hard, and the reason it's talked about, and the reason there's so much focus on it, and it's because it's not happening.
Yeah.
Because it is needed and it is so important. Like you don't see how important it is because it's never been an issue for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you couldn't possibly understand how difficult or how draining it is to not see yourself represented in a good way, or in a positive way, or in a realistic way,
or in any way.
Or in any way. Yeah. When I grew up, there was no Black Disney princess. I would have loved for there to have been a Black Disney princess, even though I didn't want to be a princess. I wanted to be a mermaid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But still, it would have been great to see.
Why were all of Ariel's sisters white? Because if you think about it, they should have been a lot more brown people, because the gods themselves, they had melanin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
See, there was such backlash when I can't remember her full name, Hallie, was cast as.
Oh yeah.
There was such a backlash because everyone was just like, "Oh my God, you are taking away, from my favorite character. Now I don't feel represented by my favorite character because she's black now. She's going to be black in live action and not white." And
white redheaded Ariel, the mermaid, still exists. She doesn't disappear.
She
doesn't disappear.
She's not. It's not like you don't have her anymore. You will still be able to, get your white skin, redhead Ariel products from the Disney store.
Yeah.
They will also just be a black Ariel as well. But then Sebastian's Caribbean. Sebastian's Jamaican accent.
Yeah. Can I tell you?
Canonically point to, including the original source, isn't it? That The Little Mermaid is set around in the Caribbean Sea.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. There, because
in the first place.
people think that mermaids only existed, I don't know, in like Nordic, whatever. But
there are ancient mermaids.
Every culture has some form of mermaid. Or
any culture that has seen water has been like, you know what? There should be hot ladies in that water.
Every single one.
And even in
Native American cultures.
So you can't say that a mythological creature, which by all evidence does not exist, can only be white.
It makes no sense. And I swear, I thought growing up when I was watching The Little Mermaid, I thought it was taking place in the Caribbean because Sebastian was Caribbean. The chef was French. The prince was British. So where do all of these things come together? They all come together in the Caribbean during that time.
Yeah,
the 1800s. It made sense in my head. I just thought, that's not. The Little Mermaid Disney's version wasn't happening in the Caribbean. That's where I thought it was happening because of all the different cultures.
Yeah.
That had mingled. It just made sense to me. So that's where I thought it was going on.
Yeah, exactly. I forgot the original point we were talking about.
Seeing a prince. Oh, yeah. Oh, I think we're talking about princesses.
Now we've gone through so many points on like which one specifically talking about before we went on the
kids at a young age seeing representation. I know. I was mentioning that. I didn't have a Disney princess when I was little. Not until I got to middle school when we got Jasmine and we got Pocahontas back in the 90s. And my kids got Tiana. So I was like, "Hey, we found." And I love it when the little
Disney princess.
Yes, and I love that sometimes if you ever had little parties, Sarah, sometimes when they do if they do the little princess parties, when a white girl will dress up like Tiana, because why not?
Yeah.
She's just a princess. And
yeah, she's just a princess. Just like if a little black child dresses up like Belle. They're just what it, But, I'm telling you, they just
we have an island. We have an island princess. We have Moana.
Yes,
we have Moana. We have Raya soon.
Oh yes,
which I'm also super, super excited about.
Is she going to be a princess? Is she going to be a Disney princess?
As far as, well, I suppose it's a Disney princess movie, as much as they do. I don't think they do official princesses now in the official princess lineup. But like Moana is a princess, and like Elsa and Anna are princesses, even though technically now they're both queens. Yeah, it is, as far as I'm aware, in that sense, a Disney princess movie. It's an animated movie with a female main character marketed towards children. So, yeah, Disney princess movie, it should be, yeah.
But doesn't technically have to be a princess, but she's a princess.
But we'll call it a Disney princess movie because why not?
Yeah.
And that's the style of it that they
Dismantle the Disney monarchy.
Except for Sarah's job.
I only work at the Disney store. I sell stuff. Not at the moment, but I sell stuff. That's about it. That's all I do.
I mean, in Wreck-It Ralph, they were all princesses.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in the sequel, they met all the princesses.
Yeah. Oh, that's my favorite scene in that movie. Right, it is getting late on my
Oh yeah, we did it again.
Dude, it's fine. Does anybody have anything else they would like to say in regards to, I'm going to kick media out because technically this is supposed to be diversity in writing, but any talk about diversity, I guess, works fine. Does anybody else have anything else they want to say or mention in regards to adding diversity to their work, or representation, or anything like that, or things that we need to keep in mind or remember in regards to diversity in our life?
I'd say I'm going for it. I'm writing diverse characters, and where I have questions, I will be asking, because I'm not, this is more towards the LGBTQ. I'm not. So when I have questions, I am definitely going to ask, but I'm not going to not write it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna include these people. I'm not Asian, but when I'm writing, I'm going to include these people. I'm not Latina, but I want an inclusive story. It's not always going to be about that, but those characters are going to exist in my story, in my story worlds. I'm going to write them. I'm going to include them, and I hope that more writers will do this, because there are people like me who, even if it's not about the struggle, I want to visually see these characters when I'm reading a book. I want that. If you're wondering, is anyone going to read it? I will read it. I want that. I'm letting you know. And that's why I'm writing it, because I'm writing what I want to see, and I hope that other writers are brave enough to do it. And if you're going to include the struggle, though, please ask someone, get your sensitivity readers, and if there's a story that is about the struggle and it's not your story, I will strongly caution you. If you don't have to tell it, if it's a story that other people are telling, don't tell it. If no one's telling this story, get someone to collab with you. If it's a specific story about a specific struggle and it's not yours, but you heard about it and you think, oh, this needs to be a story. Find the people who it is their story and collab with them on it. You don't have to be the numero uno on a story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it's important to you that the story be told, that should be the important thing. Not that you're the number one writer of the story. If it's a cultural story that you feel is important, get the people of that culture. You know, ask someone to write it or ask someone to collab with you on it if that's the most important thing.
Yeah, don't be afraid to reach out. That we are right. As I say, writers would be more than happy to help you if you want to truly and honestly represent someone's race or culture in a realistic way. They will be more than happy to help guide you into the do's and do nots of writing that specific character. Don't be afraid.
Just do it. Just write it. For me, my final comment is I feel like I have, and the way I write, my characters are diverse, and I do talk about LGBTQ issues. But as a disabled person who isn't visibly disabled, I keep freaking forgetting about us. I need to write disabled representation because I want to see disabled representation. This is something that it's like, oh, right. The struggle that I have is actually like, I shouldn't just push that away into a corner and be like, no, don't talk about that. It's my story too. That bit, I should also talk about that. Like, there are worlds upon worlds of stories within you as a human person. Don't forget that you are not just a singular facet of who you seem to be. You are a complex, complicated human being. And if you know yourself, if you reach down and think about who you really are as a person, then you will know, you will be able to have the tools to get to know other people. Like, you don't even realize how many things you have in common with other people. You just have to reach down and like become vulnerable enough in yourself to be able to see the vulnerabilities in other people. And that is what I want to write. That is what I want to show.
I love it.
Hayley, do you have anything else to add or comment on before we leave for the evening?
Uplift other voices that aren't your own. Except white people. We already occupy a lot of space. We don't need the lifting up.
You don't need more skills.
Write diversely. Someday I'll remember the end of that phrase, but yeah. Write diverse.
Write diverse.
Yes, it's not. It can be a scary thing. Okay, I'm not going to deny that, but that's not an excuse to not at least try, and it's not an excuse to ignore it altogether. And claiming, you know, things like, well, I grew up in an all-white town, or I have never met a black person, or that is just, no, that's just a terrible excuse. Not even give it a go. The world is not as you see it. And every form of media should represent the world for what it is. So yeah, be diverse.
Yes.
Don't give us some more M&Ms. Swap out some of their skills.
Yeah. It's like, I'll take a couple skills, but give me
all the
some
candy.
M&M. Yes.
I'm greedy. All the candy. Give me every single different piece of candy, because I know there are plenty to go around.
Yes.
And now I actually really want to eat Skittles.
Taste the rainbow.
Taste the rainbow.
That'll be next time.
Skittles are rainbow colored for a reason.
Yes.
And they're also
Watch,
tart
I'm
and
gonna buy
tangy. So.
Skittles. I'm gonna break them out at our next live
There's
stream.
actually a comment that I don't want to miss. There's a book that Elin Burgess really likes called Weak Heart by Ban Gilmartin. It's one of her. Yeah. The main character is a Selkie seal mermaid who's black.
Ooh.
Thank you so much for giving us that rec, because
Yes.
that's something that I would love to pick that up and read it.
Yeah. See, that's how easy it is.
Mhm.
Selkies, with all the evidence aside, don't exist.
Right?
They can be whatever color, race, ethnicity you want them to be, because there is no precedent.
Mhm.
There is no canon for them. You can do whatever the hell you want.
I love it.
And
Yes.
the same goes for sci-fi, the same goes for fantasy.
Oh my god! I just looked at Ban Gilmartin's Tumblr, and it says, "I am the Bantichrist. Ban, your Scottish
Ban.
gay aunt."
There we go. Love it.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, I just love this person now. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we are going to call that for a close, guys. Mostly because of the time.
Yeah.
If it was not so late where I was, we would be continuing the conversation. But for now, thank you guys so much for joining me. This has been an absolute manic, chaotic, epic conversation
Yes.
in regards to diversity in media, or representation in media, as it were. I'm hoping to host one of these fireside chats once every month, talking about different issues in regards to writing, things like LGBTQ representation, disabled and mental illness representation as well, in regards to characters.
Yes.
Issues in YA, with romance.
Please, Sarah, I'm desperate for that one. My issues run deep and wide.
But yeah, I'm hoping to definitely. There are so many things that, as writers, it is really important that we discuss.
Mhm.
It's really important that we have conversations about and keep those conversations going. So yeah, with these fireside chats, that's what we really want to do, is have these important conversations, so we can make that change in regards to the representation that we see and that we read every single day, because it shouldn't be commonplace to have to fight so hard to be seen, and to fight so hard to be heard and to be listened to. So yeah, if we can help even one writer get representation, one more piece of representation, like that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me. Do we want to all do an outro?
Oh.
Jerry, Haley, Nia?
Do you want to start with me?
We'll start with
All right, yeah, we'll go backwards then.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm Nia, aka the Vixen of Fiction. You can catch me here on YouTube at Vixens of Fiction. I'm also on Instagram at the Vixen of Fiction, and soon to be on Twitch as also the Vixen of Fiction. So I should be easy to find. You'll recognize my little avatar. I draw, I write comics. I'm trying to write a novel. You can follow me, and hopefully I'll have some stuff out soon for all my subbies.
Yay!
Yay.
Haley?
Hi. My name is Haley. I have an AuthorTube channel as well, and I vlog and I do like motivation and stuff. And actually, I just put up a video today. Shameless self promo if you want to check it out on my channel. And I also stream over on Twitch at Haley H Creates. You can also find me on Instagram and Twitter at Haley H Creates. And I'm just really honored to be here in the room with all these lovely people.
Hi, I'm Sherry. I was the loud one. I stream on Twitch daily from 11 a.m. CST to 2 p.m. CST, where I host Pomodoro sprints, and then after that, starting at 3 p.m. CST, I play video games, and all of my social media, is under Sharing Forge, which is there it is. Yeah, that's the name right there. Everything is under Sharing Forge. I'm fairly easy to find. Come join me on Twitch. We'll have chats. We have sprints.
There is chaos.
Sometimes they squeal.
Yes.
I stream at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Yes.
4 p.m. Eastern. I'm Sarah Cahill. I am just an author tuber at the moment. Perhaps I will start streaming on Twitch. We'll see how my schedule works out because I have a really awkward desk set up and loud children that prevent me from streaming at decent times of the day. I do writing vlogs and random writing experiments and host conversations like these, as well as once a month hosting a monthly wrap-up where we talk about our trials and tribulations and successes for the month and goal plan for the month to come. So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us, and we hope to see you all again very soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye guys.